unleashing a brand new cozy corner of today's Congress, a fireside chat led by Eva Díaz, CEO of Global STEM Women. Eva is going to be in conversation with Heidi van der Woestyne, People and Culture Director of Sanofi Iberia. Please welcome them to the stage.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with Heidi. She's the Human Resources Director of Sanofi, Iberia. And she has been a key leader for the transformation shaping the Sanofi's people-centric approach, especially in fostering flexibility and empowerment across teams. Today, we will explore our path as leaders, discuss the hurdles we have overcome, and look at how we can inspire the next generation of STEM women. Hi, Heidi.
Hi, Eva. Thank you for having me here.
I'm so happy to have you here. In pharma, we can see that almost the gender balance is well balanced, well advanced. What initiatives are Sanofi doing for making it possible?
Yeah. Well, I think it's always good, when we look at data, indeed, data show us that we're doing good on gender balance. But I think then we have to go a bit deeper, right? Because if we look, for example, in our management board at local level, we are at 66% of women. So that's a very good sign because that's where the decisions are being made. So that's a very good sign. If you look at middle management, we're doing well, okay, even if we have some room for improvement there. If we then go deeper, we're still doing okay. So if you just look at those data, you would say, fine, the job is done, we don't have to do anything, right? But the interesting thing is when you start putting lenses on that, right? If we look at, for example, R&D, we're doing very good in gender balance. If we look at supply chain or digital, then numbers go drastically down. So this is where the big corporations have their strategies on D&I, and we want to have gender balance, etc. And we're all doing the same. We're looking at the same KPIs, we're doing the same kind of initiatives, because we all want to reach that gender balance. The thing is that when we looked for those profiles in the market, we saw that oftentimes 80%, up to 80% of the candidate pool was male. So my thinking was like, if we're gonna go for the female talent, the only thing we're gonna do is move that same female talent from one company to the other and increasing salaries amongst ourselves, right? So what's the point? I mean, that's not the point of just, complying with the KPI. We have to do something different and have an impact in society if we want to change things. So this is where we started having a different thinking and saying, it's not about moving the same people around, it's about creating more profiles in that space, right? So what we started doing is, in our early career programs, for that kind of profiles, we started targeting 100% of female talent. And on top of that, as we know that there's a lot of competition because all the companies have the same targets, what we started doing is being more flexible on the background. For example, in technology, we all know that people want female tech talent, for example, or with mathematics, statisticians, etc. So what we started doing is really looking at profiles who could have appetite for those kind of jobs, but not necessarily exactly that kind of background, maybe with some affinity that they could evolve into that. And actually, it has been working pretty well, but you have to take some risks as well, because, those people with appetite, maybe afterwards they want to continue, or maybe not. And we had some cases where they had success stories and they developed their careers there. Other ones, reached the conclusion it's not for me, and they moved on to other areas, right? So that's the kind of things we have to accept as well. We have to do different initiatives and accepting as well that, there's some risk there, and we have the luxury, for example, as big corporations, to have that kind of programs. That's one thing that we fostered to make sure that we, amplify the pool of female talent in that space. And then internally, we also looked at, how we can make sure that the female talent can continue growing, right, in the company. And I think we have several programs that are aimed at empowering people in general, but it's also helping female talent to feel more comfortable. For example, we're working a lot on psychological safety. We're working a lot on thoughtful risk-taking. And if you foster that kind of culture, if you have a lot of conversations around that and you really embed it in the conversations, what you achieve as well, that if you have a psychologically safe environment, people are more comfortable to speak up. They are more vulnerable. They can show themselves as they are. And that is what we need at the end. It's not about men, women, etc. It's just like making sure that everybody is aware of the diversity and inclusion, that everybody is aware how important it is to have a safe space and to just take calculated risks so that we make sure that we make progress in that space as well.
Yeah, it's super interesting. In fact, we will have thereafter a panel that will talk about vulnerabilities, but especially with men. Because I always say that in an empowered in the world that we dream of, we know how we want women in the future. But I don't know if we know how we want these men to be, or how they want to be, This is a discussion that I always say that they have to have, and they have to have their evolution on that. And it's interesting that even that today, like today, we are here and we are discussing and we are learning from each other. They have to have this conversation too, no? We will see this panel with Mara. And I think I really encourage you to come and to see and to listen to. With these rapid advancements in STEM, how does Sanofi address the risk of biases? Because it can be, in the process or in the emerging technologies. We are seeing now artificial intelligence, a lot of things that are applied on health too. And how you address that, and what are the measures that you are taking to ensure inclusive environment and innovation?
Yeah. I think that's a very important topic that is emerging in general. It's how do we avoid human bias to be perpetuated through technology and artificial intelligence, right? And there's a lot of things being done around that. Internally, what we're trying to achieve is making sure that diversity and inclusion is embedded in everything we do. So that, for example, out of Barcelona, we're running digital transformation programs in our Global Innovation Center. And we have around 400 people there from more than 40 nationalities.
Wow.
So we really make sure that if you're creating global programs, you need representation of people of all around the world. If you make global programs, you want to make sure that you have people from different backgrounds, different points of view, etc. And one way of achieving it is, of course, leadership has to make its mark, but I think it's much more important that it's embedded in everything we do. And that's why we work through our 5 pillars with our ERG, our employee resource groups, so to make sure that it's really organically also fostered within the company. And again, the concept we have is really how can people bring their best selves to work, which is their full selves. So I have to make sure that everybody can bring that full selves and their best selves to the workplace, so that when they're working on programs, that they integrate that kind of culture as well. That's not only their own vision, but also the vision of other people, that everything is embedded. And there's one specific program that I would like to call out, which I think is very interesting, because what we're always trying to look at as well is how do we connect with groups that are underrepresented in society or that are marginalized, because those groups, they have lost kind of trust in the healthcare system. They see that they go to doctors, maybe there's a gap in communication, or they don't understand each other, or they don't feel understood really because they come from a different background. And when there's this disconnect, then you're lost. They're not following the treatment, or they're not diagnosed properly, etc. So we really have to make sure that we connect with those groups as well. So we have one program which is called 1 Million Conversations, which has 3 pillars, and is precisely trying to engage with people from those communities to connect them with healthcare, so that they can be the future leaders in healthcare, making sure that those voices are heard whenever we need to make decisions on the future, etc. One example is clinical trials, for example, right? There we need to have that diversity. And make sure that they can reconnect them back with their communities.
Yes.
So it's making sure that their view is integrated within the company and their decision making, and at the same time also reconnecting with those communities. Mm-hmm. And we do it through the 3 different pillars. We have scholarships. So this is the first year we're going to start with that program. So we're going to have some people there joining us pretty soon. We do it also to internal dialogue, so we make sure that these kind of subjects are part of our agenda in terms of internal conversations, that we make sure that people are aware. And then there's a 3rd pillar where we really go and interact with stakeholders who are doing policy shaping. Because again, it's about making sure that you leave that mark also where the decisions are made at governmental level for new laws, for new regulations, etc. So we really think that if you take that holistic approach with those 3 pillars, we can really make a difference there.
Yeah. When we were preparing this conversation, we were I remember talking to the president of the Canadian Black Physician Association, and she told me, I didn't realize that, because we always are so unconscious of our own bias, And she told me during the pandemic, they had a lot of problems with the Black community because there is only I think it's 3% of the physicians in Canada, they are Black. And then they didn't trust the doctors when they say they have to get vaccinated. You know, these are the kind of bias that we are talking. Today I'm talking, or we are more based on gender, but there are things that there are a lot of other bias that sometimes here in this Congress we also address because everything is connected, like you say, you are doing a global strategy, you know. I was asking myself sometimes, as a female leader, you know, what experiences have shaped your career? Because sometimes we have this, you come from a background in business, economics, and sometimes we think we're in a STEM environment in some company. It's like sometimes it's like, I am really STEM or what I am, you know? But I don't know anything that STEM to talk about for my career, I am PR, I'm a journalist, then I don't know anything that is only that, no? What makes you, what have shaped your career? What are the challenges you have become in this field, in this company, especially in these kind of sectors?
Yeah. But I don't think there has been one pivotal experience. I think it's just how you build your experiences, right? How you learn from them, how you focus on personal growth. And again, I have been in global roles, regional roles, local roles, more specialists, more generalists, so a bit of everything. And the different steps I've taken was not always my dream job. I think you just have to make sure, you know, that whatever step you take, there's personal growth. And whatever job you're in, you can always leave your personal mark. That's something you just have to reflect on yourself. And you can always stretch your job. So I think that's something you can take away. You know, whatever job you're in, you're always able to take something out of it, to make a personal impact, to stretch yourself to grow more. And so from the professional side, I would say that's a bit my thinking. On the personal note, there's one thing I can maybe share as well in terms of vulnerability. You know, a couple of years ago, my ex-husband moved abroad. And so I'm a single mom in Barcelona, I'm foreign myself as well, so no family support. And all of a sudden I felt so vulnerable because I was here alone with full custody of my children. And all of a sudden I had this limiting belief that now my wings were cut and I was not going to be able to progress further in my career. You know, and I had to hear it from other women to be able to take away that bias because that was my internal dialogue, you know. So my former manager told me, but she told me just something like, you don't realize, but you're already doing 90% of the things. So, you know, it's going to be only 10% extra, so you will be able to manage it. And, you know, hearing it also from other people, you know, sometimes you just have to talk to people and get a mirror in front of you to see what you're capable of doing. And so I had this, like, vulnerability moment, and then I, you know,
you get the
strength again, and then, you know, I was able to, and 1 year later, I got promoted to a different role, right?
Amazing.
So sometimes we just have to get rid of our limiting beliefs and this internal dialogue that we have, just share with other people because they can give you a different picture of yourself as well.
Of course. I think community and the environment that you are in, especially the companies that really support this kind of environment, is so important, but also to surround by people like we have here, the community that I always say that they are my strength because every time that we do something and they are so happy for me and sometimes you feel overwhelmed, but it's your strength to overcome the fear that I talk at the beginning that you sometimes have. We were talking to also as moms because we have children too, how you work this empowerment at home. What do you do? What is your advice for other moms, especially for the ones that are now fighting with the situation of having little kids, that they are less autonomous, let's say, and is a little more demanding from our role as moms.
Yeah. Well, I have a boy and a girl, and they're opposite characters. So what I always tell them, like, is the three of us, we have to make it work, the three of us, and everybody's contributing based on their strengths and capabilities. It's not about being a boy or a girl. It's not being, you know, with no stereotypes. I always tell them, look, if I need to get groceries done, I know I send my boy because he's very productive. If I want something nice and creative to be done, because my daughter, she's very creative, I know that I'm going to talk to her. So I always talk to them about the importance of, for them to look at each other and see how complementary they are, not in terms of gender, but just in terms of capabilities they have, the strengths they have, and how they have to help each other as well to contribute to the family. So I empower them a lot as well, because again, I have to as well.
Yes, of course.
Sometimes the need you have is also helping you in getting, setting an example also for your children.
Yeah. I think it's important that as parents, we also raise the future generation of men that we want to be in this society, It's usual that as women, we always talk to the daughters like, you have to be that, you have to do, be brave. But sometimes we don't think about, or we didn't think enough about, how is the role of this male, that he's going to be the supporter of the society, the half of the society too, We don't want the male to go out, We want to be all together in the same society and live together, and make a better world, What is your
and for the next session, we need more men in the room as well.
Yes, we are always saying that. We already have some men, and we are happy, and we are so proud of them because they really are supporters and allies, that I say always that. And every year we have a little more men. That's nice. I think maybe next year we have to do some kind of action to call them. Okay, we are run out of time, but I want you to finish with an advice for women that are in STEM, that have a career, that are maybe, have a family too. What is your advice for them?
Okay, so one piece of advice would be to embrace uncertainty. We live in a very uncertain world, both in our personal lives and in our professional lives. And if you come from STEM, you have structured studies, everything's about processes, data, a lot of stuff. So I think, being able to integrate uncertainty as part of our lives is going to help us build our futures, both in personal and professional ways. A second advice I would give is precisely also because of all that structure, which is very good in helping us. I think it's always good to connect with the other side, which is more art, music, dancing, because I think we have to embrace that side as well, right? I mean, of course, we need to be effective and productive and efficient and technology-driven, etc. But how do we connect, with that kind of part as well, so that we make sure that we have a holistic view there? And the last advice would be to focus on personal growth and soft skills. What really makes a difference when you're building a career are the soft skills. Make sure you network, make sure you work on your communication skills, make sure you work on leadership, and you really identify what are the soft skills that you want to develop to be able to progress in your career, because the technical skills are already there.
Yes.
So what you really need to focus on is on the soft skills, I think.
It's been amazing, a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much,
Likewise.
Heidi.
Thank you.